Right, so we're back on this Mac SE again. Hopefully we'll get somewhere this time. I've gone ahead and fully recapped this board and socketed the sound chips as well, just so we can power from bench. So I've got all this set up and rigged now, ready to boot from a bench, so we don't have to have a big screen in front of us and mains power and all that lot, especially when we want to kind of power cycle a lot. So I've put two big caps here, and then the rest are ceramics. Socketed the sound chips. I've tested this boot with the SADMAC tone off bench. So let's just confirm everything still works since I've powered that up, because I've powered it back down since. And when powering from bench, we just want to be super careful. We don't connect the 12 volts to the 5 volts, otherwise this whole thing's going to die. So I've taped up the 12 volts, and you want to keep it far away from the 5 volts. There we go. So we got the SADMAC, so we know this is the working one that we are going to now probe. So the goal was to basically look for broken traces. So where I'm going to start is the obvious. We know we don't get any data activity, or we don't get a looping data activity, at least on the broken one, on the ROM sockets. So we'll start a probing down here, work our way through all the ROM sockets. And if this seems to be okay in terms of pinouts and signals, we'll move up to the 68K, and then probably the glue chip last. So we'll start on this board, working, powered from bench. We don't need the speaker in, because now we can tap reset. We don't want to keep hearing that ding-dong every single time we're tapping reset. But through the scope, we should be able to see what's going on. So the first thing we want to do is pull up the schematic and see what all these pins are, so we know what we're probing. So we have the schematic in keycad here, so I can search, because when we need to start searching for these pins, we don't want to have to look all the way through the schematic. We can just press Control F and search for them. So this is the ROM sim here. And let me just probably make that a little bit bigger on vertical for people. So I'll probably just blow up the screen a little bit so it's a little bit bigger. And then if you're watching on vertical, you can probably see. So this is the ROM sim here. This is top down to bottom. And that will be, if we leave that on screen, the top pin will be here, and we'll work our way down. So what we want to do is start at the top, so we get nice and big so we can see. First pin, it should be 5 volts. So what we'll have to do is pull up the scope over this. But we'll go 5 volts, 2 pins of nothing, then address pins, and then we should hit ground, and then ROM pins. So let's just start with that. And I'll just chuck over the scope here. And now if we probe on the first point, so we should be able to zoom in a bit here as well. And you can see what we're doing a bit more. So I'm just probing on the pins I can see here. And you can see we've got 5 volts. So if I just drag a line down to the 5 volts, so when I remove, you can see that white line that's left is the 5 volt position. So that's 5 volts as we expect. And then the next one would be, well, 2 pins of nothing, and then a bunch of address pins, and then we'll keep probing till we get to ground. We shouldn't really have to revert back to this too much, because this is a known working one, so we should see signals we expect. So 2 pins that aren't connected, which are there, and you see how that almost looks like a broken trace. So that kind of wiggle there would indicate a broken trace. But we know from the schematic that pin just isn't connected, so that's what you're seeing. You're seeing a disconnected trace. Next up, we'll have address. So there we go, we've got a toggling address now. Hey up, Ducky, you a Stokey? Yeah, I've been doing lives now for about probably 4 or 5 days. These address pins are now about 4 volts, so we'll go to there. So we can now see where the 5 volt is and where the address signals to. And then if we go to the next ones, we can see the addresses are constantly toggling. So this is just constantly loading from the ROM as you'd expect, because this would be playing the audio. And let's just see if we can actually see as well when you press. Let's maybe zoom out a bit on the division. Press again. I'm seeing if we can notice anything that kind of correlates with when we are playing the sound. Because it'd be nice to be able to probe this and almost see. Oh, there you go. That's maybe one. What's that one? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Pin 5. And pin 5 is 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. So address 3. That gives us almost a visual. So plug in the speaker. This is what I'm trying to figure out. Is there a good way to also visually check for the dead Mac sound without having working audio? Because that'll be really useful. So let's see if the scope ties in with. There we go. So that literally does. So if you see that on screen, quite clearly ties in with when the music's playing. So address pin 3, we can look at basically to tell that the dead Mac tone is playing. That's a good thing to know. Yeah, nice. Yeah, I used to go to gym in Biddulph, or get drunk, one or the two. Used to go to the gyms there or nightclubs, but nightclub scene's pretty much dead now, I think. Yep, so that's all good, and we should go, as we're coming across, we should find ground soon. There we go, so that pin will be ground. I'm sure if we counted it would be right, and then after the ground, I think there was one ground, and then, is this now data? Let's just check, I can't remember. No, this is the ROM pin now, so 11 and 12, these two should be tied in, will be triggering to load data from ROM, and that's a 5-volt signal, and that'll be the same on them two pins. That'll pin 11 and pin 12, I believe they were. Next pin is 5 volts, is it? Let's check again. Yep, so the next one's 5 volts. Then it's a whole bunch of data, and then we should get to a ground. So we should be able to just probe along, see all the data, and get to ground. So there's data, and then we just keep going. All the data will be different because this is the data coming off the ROM chip and being loaded, so every bit of data is different. And we can fly through this because we know this is the working board, so all these data pins are definitely going to be good. It's just a quick visual. There we go, and that must be pin 30 for ground. So that's 3 from the end. So you see how you got pins going along here, and then a gap. So this gap will indicate pin 32 here, pin 33 starts here, and it will be a 64-pin socket. 2 seconds, just got a phone call. Okay, we're back. Yeah, so this will be pin 32 here, pin 33 here. So it's an easy way to find the pins quick. And pin 30 was ground, so that was 2 before. And then after that, we're going to go to all addresses until we hit a 5 volt. So it'll be all addresses, 5 volt, and then it'll change to data again until the end. So we should be able to almost memorize that sequence. So if we go to the last 2 there, so that's address again, address. Oh, that one's got nothing. So maybe that address is 0, or... Okay, so that address, so that's another handy little note of its booting. The first one, so that'll be pin 33. It runs and you get addresses until it's finished playing the SADMAC, and then it goes to ground. These are all useful notes when you're checking systems. Looks like same for pin 34 as well. And then 35 seems to be permanent. And then we'll carry on down. So these will all be addresses. Oh, my first tip. Way, we filled the bar. I was beginning to wonder if that thing worked. Thank you very much. Definitely get a treat for the pug out of that. So this is another pin here that does the same thing. It doesn't actually carry on as long as the SADMAC sound, like this pin. But you can see it does basically work on boot and then stop. Same with that one. So long as we see activity, that's all we care about. That one's nothing, so that'll be the ground pin. So now we've got a point at which we know it's ground, and then these are now going to change to data. Or not. We've got 2 grounds. Maybe we've got 2 grounds. I don't recall 2 grounds. No. So maybe one of the datas is always ground there. So let's count where we are, and then we'll know. So 46 should be ground. And 45, it might be 45, address pin 22 might always be ground because that's quite far into the ROM. That's probably what it's going to be. So I'm guessing pin 45 is the one that's grounded. We're working on a Mac SE. I'm going to zoom out a minute and hide that out of the way. So we've got a Mac SE. Obviously, the monitor's on the floor at the minute. This is the motherboard. This is a working one that we've purposely reduced down to bare minimum. And this is the one we're trying to fix, which is a brand new PCB with all the components transferred over, which was fully working and is now fully dead, literally. So we get nothing. We don't get anything at all. It doesn't boot up. It comes out of reset and just nothing happens. So this is as dead as it gets, really. So what we're doing is using this working one to break it in the same way as the other one, and now we're just probing the very first boot up. So this is the ROM. This is effectively like the BIOS, if you will, for the first boot, and we're just probing for what goes on, so we can see what happens on this data bus as things are powering up, like observing the address and data buzzes. We've just found one of the pins on, I presume, the address that's low, so I'm just going to count for that. So pin 33, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 40, 1, 2, 3, 4. So I'm going to guess pin 44 has data, which it does. And pin 45, I'm going to guess that has data. So 46 is ground. Okay, what's going on? So it's not even that. 45. There must be an address pin on here. 44, 43, 42. So this address pin just always seems to be ground, but this must be valid because this is working, you know, so we know this is a working system. Let's just double check that. So we have 33, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 40. 41. So 41 and 42 are ground. According to the schematic, 41 and 42 is address 18 and 19. So maybe that's just always seeking to 0 at that address. It might just be that because it's failing to boot at the start, those two addresses never pull up. So that's fine. We know that's good because this is a working board, but just remember that we're not going to see any activity on those two pins. And then now we get to the 5 volts. So now after this is the data. So there's the data, and now this should be just data all the way to the end. And that will be the entire ROM probe. So we know what we're looking for then. The only abnormalities were the 2 address pins that are always low, and some of the address pins fire up and stop after a short while, basically. So they'll kick in and then stop running. But the data pins look like they're always running. And there's the end, the 5 volt and the ground. So now we want to really see what happens on the bad system. And we might not see anything on, well, we should see something different because we know it doesn't walk the buzz, it doesn't keep pulsing like that, it stops, because I briefly probed it at some point and I remember that that's what happens. But beyond that, we don't know. So what we're going to look for is, hopefully, a bad trace, basically. So something that goes to about 2 volts, that's what I'm hoping for. We'll get these connected up in a second, get this soldered back on. So this is just the ground wire to the probe. And there's no point connecting the speaker on this because we know it doesn't output audio, so we're just going to be using the scope on this. If this thing could curl in a way that I want it to, which is... It's annoying. Very annoying. Just got a bend in it that is not going where I want. Right, that'll do. Ground on ground. 12 volts on 12 volts. 5 volts on 5 volts. So power draws right. So we know it's not a power draw issue. Reset pulse is the power, so I don't think there's any issues there. And now because this board's got the different ROM chips on, we can probe all these pins in this SIM slot here, but it is effectively like probing these, but so we're probing the same way. We're going to do that. Let's just go to probably the overhead for this one so we can see. And then focus in maybe. There we go. So what we're going to do is probe down these. So we've got 5 volts there, which is good. There was 2 not connected, so they'll just be floating. Now I think it was address pins, which you see that's just sitting at the 4 volts here, but if we reset, there you go, this is what we saw. It basically starts to pulse, then instantly fails within like 5 pulses, so something's gone seriously wrong with loading the data. So we're going to have to keep resetting. So what I'm doing here, just so you can see, probably take that off actually, so you can actually see. Zoom out. I'm just probing along here, so probing this one, and I'm tapping reset, and then probing the next one, tapping reset. So when you see it on screen, you can just see it flicking, you know, temporarily. Press reset now, see the pulse, and it dies. Press reset again. So that's what I'm doing. I'm going to have to go down every pin down here, and what we're looking for is that the voltage is correct and we see some activity. And the only ones we probably won't see activity on are address pins. Is that ground already? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. Yeah, so 10 was ground. Then this was data, I believe. This was the ROM select pin, 11 and 12. So that's basically selecting ROM and failing, but the signal's there. 13 is 5 volts, 14 is now data. So there's the first data. We're literally getting 1 byte and failing. That one's slightly strange. Is that just me trigger point catching the rise? Yeah, it was just sitting on a midway. That one's fine. 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 one of these surely you'd think it'd have to have some problem, because this is the bit it's failing on. It's trying to load data. It's clearly reading from the ROM chip. Fine. Nothing so far. It's got data. Oh, hello, that's not quite right. 32, 31, 30, 29, 28, 27. That's not where it should be. So see where that's floating? That's floating pretty much where dead CMOS gates float. So that's the 4 volts where it lands. This is 3.3 volts. Now 3.3 volts is a critical, I'm not controlling the data pin level. Now if things fail, and I've seen this many times, if chips fail, that's normally what you can see as well. That's when one of the chips is holding that data pin in its mid state. So if that's pin 27. Let me just pull up. We've got a good article on retro6.wiki that shows this. We might be on, well, we are on something here now. There's definitely something wrong there. If I go to retro6.wiki, let's pull this up. And then I've put it in Learn Electronics and digital voltage levels. So this is a chart I wrote to help people understand where voltages should and shouldn't lie within chips. And this is actually driven by the fact that a popular mod for the Game Gear, the EverDrive, has a serious fault in my eyes that the 5 volt pin, the SMS pin, of the CMOS logic is set at 3.3 volts, which if you see this grey area, this light grey, this is the unknown area, whereas voltage sits here in the 3.3 volt. The CMOS doesn't know what to do, and it also will sink like 100 times more current than it should. So it's not good for the chips to be in this unknown region. You should be 3.5 volts or 1.5 volts and below. And the ideal level, the absolute guaranteed level, is in the red. So voltages that sit in this mid-range here are definitely a no-go. That's why you've seen the data and the addresses sit in this 4 volt range up to 5 volts, between 4 and 5. That's a valid range. But 3.3 volts is definitely not a valid range for the data pins. So we have an issue here. So let's just reconfirm that, make sure I haven't probed something wrong. So this is pin 32, which was address or data. 31, same again. 30, so I think 30 was ground, which is 29. Oh, there you go, 29's bad as well, or a bad trace. We're definitely onto something here. So this is pin 29 in reset. And look at that. That's again, I bet if we drag this down to like the 3.3 again there, I bet it hits that line. Yeah, exactly. So we have an issue on. It doesn't look that much, but that is a problem. That is definitely not going to read correct. So there's 2 problems so far. There's a problem on pin 27 and 29, and they're next to each other on this, whether that's significant or not. So what are those pins on the schematic? 27 and 29. D13 and D15. So let's investigate this. So if we search for, this is why I've got KiCad open, it's going to be much easier to do a control find. And in here, let's do D13. So we know it's on the ROM sim. It's also on the SIM slot and the other SIM slot. So that means it's on 2 of these SIM slots, but there's nothing there, so that can't be the problem. It's on the 68K, which it has to be. Oh, and look what it's on. UI5. And what's the chip we didn't bother removing? UI5. The FPU. So, that means we've either got a bad CPU, well, likely bad CPU, or bad FPU. Hopefully it's a bad FPU, because that's easy to swap. Bad CPU is kind of a problem. We're working on a few Mac SE30s. So I've got the monitors on the floor, but we've got the motherboards on the desk. So we've got a working SE30 here, which we've stripped down to bare minimum to diagnose the initial BIOS boot. And then we've got the broken one here that we've been trying to fix for quite a while now. Just discovered there's a problem on these two pins here, D13 and D15, so the data pins that go to these two chips. So we need to, let's carry on probing actually. We've seen an issue on one of them. Let's just pull up the scope and just carry on finishing the probe to see if there's any other issues, because that's two pins already we found an issue on. That one's fine. Let's just go to overhead so we can see easier. And then we have activity there. Activity there, so we're good. Pin 33, fine, fine. That one is, yeah, that's okay. It goes back to high after it's finished and failed. That's like a normal address, so that's good. That's good. That's good. And I'm pretty sure all these addresses are going to be fine, because it will have failed to load that data. So what that's ultimately done is loaded data, and because those 2 bits of data will be corrupt and not in the right value, the computer can't execute code, so it's literally going to stall. It doesn't know what to do at that point. That pin is the 5 volt, and now we should be back onto data. So these will be the data pins, which are 5 volts. And let's hope well, it doesn't really matter how many failures we've got now, but at least if we're dealing with 2 pins, we can narrow down where we're searching for problems. Hopefully there might be like a short on the board, but that voltage is far too specific that I know it's not going to be a short. That 3.3 volts, it's not going to just sit at 3.3 volts. That's literally what happens when a CMOS gate isn't being controlled, when it's in a tri-state. So I'm pretty sure we are dealing with a dead component. Yeah, and everything else is fine. That's the 5 and the ground. So we found the problem. The problem is D13 and D15, pin 27 and 29. Let's disconnect power and think about what we do then. So I don't know if it's good or bad really, because it's the best case scenario is it's the FPU. I just don't want to take it off because of these. Worst case scenario, it's the, well, I say that. This could be bad. It could also be this chip. This chip could have randomly failed. Because if this chip's failed, I'm pretty sure the data 13 and 15 are on this. So you'll have data 0 to 7 on this, 8 to 15 on this, 16, and you get the idea. So there's going to be like 8 bits per chip. So I'm pretty sure this chip is going to be pin 27. Oh, first one. First pin I probed. I just looked at pretty much in line and got the pin. So that's one. This one is there. So this chip, is it worth swapping? We can either swap that chip, which means I'm going to have to get the programmer out, and actually, I'll tell you what, let's be smart about this. Let's swap these 2 chips over. Now, even though it's going to fail anyway, because something's corrupt, if we swap these 2 chips over, and then these data pins become corrupt, we know it's the chip. If these stay corrupt on this side, we know it's another chip. That's a good idea. Where is the extraction tool? Reset line. Oh, I haven't seen all the messages. I've been too busy chatting to myself. Let me go back on these. Oh yeah, because it's TikTok, the messages don't show on screen. The lines aren't shorted to ground because they wouldn't be 3.3 volts. Reset line, we checked that. I can double check it after what we checked. It comes out of reset. The issue seems to be it starts to read the data bus, and we've found 2 pins that are corrupt, so it's going to just fail because the data bus is bad. So let's just take this chip out. Right, and I can actually get it out the tool. This one out. We might finally be onto, well, we definitely are onto the solution now, or the cause of the problem. So let's put these the other way around. And now, moment of truth. So what we're now looking for is pins 27 and 29 are either going to stay bad, in which case it's the CPU or FPU, or they're going to go bad, and that is the best possible solution, because then we just put a new one of these in. So let's hope that data, or pin 27 and 29 are now okay. That's what we're hoping for. Now in our luck, that won't be the case, but we can hope. Right, so we know it was, I think it was 2nd pin in here. This pin. So, yes! Look at that. That is the best possible answer. So, that means this chip, if I'm right about what I'm thinking or getting excited, yes, there you go. This chip's dead. So there's this now. ROM chip on this data line is bad. Really. So after all that, I guess somebody with no experience would have diagnosed this far quicker than me. We're not booting, so maybe it's the ROM. Simplest answer. But what threw me off was, and this is what doesn't make any sense whatsoever, is, I've mentioned this about 50 times on these lives now, but this was a completely, fully working system. I reflowed pins up here on the SCSI, which I'm sure I didn't do anything wrong as well, just reflowed them. The whole system died. That's got absolutely nothing to do with ROM down here. So out of the blue, completely randomly, for no reason whatsoever, other than to piss me off, this brand new ROM chip I've only just brought and that's booted about 4 times, it has just died. Like, why? That is just about as bad a luck as you get. So all we have to do is put 1 back into 1 and reprogram 2. And we should have, I say we should have, look at all the shit we've removed. I've got to put all this back on as well, but that's not a big issue. I was kind of hoping for it to be something that made more sense. Like, this makes no sense. This is just a, yes, we found the problem. But yeah, just completely randomly, this chip's dead. Like, no issue at all. My bot is telling people off again for long message. I've got to disable that long message warning. Picoscope I'm currently using. I think it's a 6.2 something. I'd have to kill, let me just kill 6402D I'm using. I've got tons of them. But this is my favourite one. This is like not too expensive. It's like 2 or 3 grand, but fast enough. And just a good all-round scope. I've got loads of different ones, like real low resolutions for video, real fast speed for fisheye stuff. But this is like a really good all-rounder that I use for most stuff. Thanks, Jake, for the message. I'm glad I inspire people with what I do as well. I was beginning to lose faith in this one, to be honest. This was like, I wasn't looking forward to probing all of the CPU and the bring up, because I don't really know how this system brings up beyond it being a basic bring up here. I'm gonna have to, I keep saying this every stream as well, we need to sort out spamming so people don't just keep linking to random shit. Right, I need to get, there's the question, where's all my programming stuff? Where is it? On the floor, I think. 1 second. Now I've got to find all the files, so we can move this out of the way, man. We've pretty much identified, I'm confident we've identified the problem, so let's close the scope. Get a programmer. So if any of you guys want to program these chips, you just get these XG ECUs. You get like the The T48 programs most stuff, and it's cheaper. I think this is the T48. And I've got the T56 that does a few rarer chips. And we have this as well, which is the sockets. So you have to buy like sockets that fit in here. Oh, I've tried dishwashing it and everything. We have not only rice, we've dishwashed it, we've cleaned it, we've probed it, we've bent the board. Trust me, we've tried everything we can possibly do, including resetting this over and over about 50 times in the hopes it just starts working. But I don't think we'd have really found that. There's no reason why that chip would have failed. It's literally the newest chip on this board. So it's like genuinely the least used component on the whole board. But that's what can happen. Where's my USB extension disappeared? It's fell on the floor. There we go. Right, so this goes in. I see pin 1 upside down. I've got to find the files again, which will be on Discord. Actually, I think they're in my files, so that shouldn't be too bad. Apple Mark, ROMs, there we go. So it's going to be U2. We need to open up XG prog. Pull that up on screen so you can see what we're doing. And I need to find the chips as well. Hey, look at this. I'm organised for once. No, I'm not. That's not it. Thought I was. I've got a socket. That doesn't help us. Oh, they're a bit, aren't they? Yes, there we go. Yeah, I think it's, to be honest, I think it's died just so that I have to make videos on it, and it knows that if I can't solve something, I'm not going to stop. So I worked on it all weekend. I've worked on it for on and off for, to be honest, probably about 3 or 4 weeks. And the original booking to the repairing this system was months ago. We fixed it. It come back in, was fully working, and right before sending it back out, it died again. So I think just a whole load of bad luck. Let's get this in. That goes that way. I hate these sockets, they're a pain in the ass. There we go. And now we have to select. Oh, where's he come from? Disappear. We have to go in here. It's already still set up. So SST39SF040. Close enough to the chip we have in. So this is literally from the last time I programmed it. We'll load a file in. But it's still even in the folder. Yes, it is. So it'll be U2. Okay. And in fact, we'll also, let's program this first, and then we'll try to read back the other chip to prove it is a faulty chip. And I bet the other one, where did I put the other one? Over there. Cool, so that's programmed. Now, let's just, before we boot and hopefully get excited that this has worked, let's kind of prove that we were right in what we saw by putting this faulty chip in here. I'm going to be really disappointed and look really stupid if this is wrong, but this should fail to verify. So if we leave the program here in memory, this is what we're expecting to be in the chip. We can click verify, and I really hope this fails. Yes, there we go. Otherwise, we're going to look really stupid. So that's failing to read back. It's not even passing ID checks. So that is a sign, or a further sign, that this chip is bad. So everything's pointing to good luck here. It also means that these chips that I got off eBay, I think, just for speed at the time, are probably fake. So they've probably been rebranded, or the slower speed, or just bad luck, but more than likely, wow, I didn't want to come out. This is what I mean about these sockets. So, works sometimes. That literally is stuck in there. You can stay in there for now, sorry. He's literally stuck. Right, we might as well get the speaker ready. Turned on. And slot 2, so upside down. In we go. What do you reckon? We're finally going to hear this noise. I'm going to knock off early if it is. I'm going to be done. Here we go. I'm going to be really, really sad if it doesn't work though. In a fashion, that's a success. Send it back to the customer. Yeah. We're close. What's wrong? I wonder if it's just the speaker, because that speaker's been a bit dicey, to be honest. You know what? I wonder if we've got more bad chips, like the fact that one's dead. Or saying that this did have a sound problem, so we might be onto a sound problem. So, shall we try and boot with the screen? Because it might be. Let's ignore the sound issue. It's clearly booting. Let's just go for a full boot and see what. Oh, we can't. We've got to put everything back on. I knew it wasn't going to be that simple. Yeah, shit. We've got to put everything back on the board. We found the issue there, though. We're getting some kind of boot, so I'm going to say that's a win. Let's start putting everything back on the board. We're building, we're now going to build back up, hopefully, a Mac SE30. It's been going on for ages. We've got a working one here we've just completely annihilated and taken all the chips off, so we can get it to figure out what happens when it very first boots, like what the BIOS does. And then we've used that and probed this and found the issue is actually one of these brand new chips has died. So we've finally got some sound coming out of the system. But before we did that, we gutted everything on the board. So we've now got to put everything back on, like everything. We took off all the chips, which I'm now regretting. I was going to knock off early. If I heard that sound and it was clean, I wasn't even going to put stuff back on. I was just going to finish. Never mind. Right, enough whinging. Let's just get on to build. Let's turn that 12 volts off so I don't kill things I shouldn't. These can come off now. It might not be that bad. We've only got to solder up half of a PC. And this board did have, bear in mind, this board had an audio issue where this IC was getting super hot. And we never fixed that. We left that alone and we said we'd come back to that. So I'm hoping that this system's going to work. It's just got bad audio now, which is another problem, but much less of a problem. Right then. This is my tub with things from this, and this is the foam, which I can't remember which way around, but both of these work. So let's just put the sockety stuff back in first, I guess, for the video output. Oh, no, it doesn't. I was going to say, does this video stuff affect audio? But the other board gives clean audio, so it's not that. We might just also have a single broken trace going to say this UE10 that's corrupting that audio sound. That could be what the slightly strange audio is. But that's definitely a win. Oh yeah, I get as many chips as I can from either a known factory or, like you say, DigiKey. I think this was just a rush, like we wanted the chips fast to prove, so this was a mistake for buying them from eBay, really. The soldering station is a I2C. Let me just use my little fancy tool to move the camera. Whee! Definitely need a shave, Jesus. Here you go. It's a clone of a JBC, but it's called an I2C. You should find them on AliExpress, and then you can obviously use the real JBC tips, so you get really good quality, but without the crazy price of a JBC. Somewhere back to there. This pan and tilt's pretty cool. Right, that's them on. It's all the easy work. These are not too bad. We can put these on fairly quickly. So let's get them over the top. These won't take that long. To be honest, I don't think it's going to be that bad. think we'll have these on in probably 20 minutes, maybe. Don't know what time are we on. 20 past 4, so much for finishing early. We've got all of these chips out the way. These two go at the bottom, so in fact, let's just do the bottom two first. And then get them on. Hot air time. Best version of SE30, to be honest, you'd probably best asking the guy who's SE30 to some fixing. I know next to nothing about these because this is literally the first. This was the first one I had in to repair, knowing absolutely zero about them. Brought a few broken, which are the two I fixed up first, and I'm learning as I go, so I'm definitely no expert in these. Oh yeah, the cameras are good. I mean, this overhead one's the best. I'll show you the quality in a second. This is obviously crazy expensive though. Way too expensive for a basic stream setup, but I do like to have, like, it's one thing I really like is clean and good cameras, especially when I'm doing stuff like this. The pan and tilt one, too bad, that was like just over $1,000, it was like, I think 1.2k. But the camera you're looking at now, the lens on it alone is $4,000, I think. My stomach's pressing the space bar and doing something on screen. So this one, for example, I can zoom right out of the way in, and bear in mind this is also a 4K camera that's been scaled down to 1K. So that's like in focus, and then you can zoom in further. And this is just, you know, this is a 1K resolution version of the 4K camera. And if you basically look at what that is, so that chip there, see if I can get this high enough up. Look at that. There you go. So it's sitting on a Blackmagic up there, and it's got a Cine, well, it's not a Cine lens, I've got Cine lenses, but this is like a motorized zoom. And even though I spent a ton on the camera, I didn't want to spend money on the thing that zooms it in and out. So I just opened it up, soldered wires in, and then this wire I can run all the way down to my hand, and I can use a switch to zoom in and out, just because I didn't want to spend even more money on. I don't mind spending money on stuff, but I don't want to spend it on pointless stuff. So that's 2 chips on. What do I usually fix? To be honest, I let Zach fix most stuff, and then I just jump on the difficult stuff. So we get tons of Game Boys and Game Gears in, but I don't normally have to deal with them. I've got at the minute, I've got a Atari Jag, a Neo Geo AES, another Atari Jag, and I think that's it in terms of like difficult ones that I'm going to be on, but I'll stream those. I'll probably stream all them being fixed, so you'll see them. But yeah, we get tons and tons of Game Gears. I need to build a few more Game Gears, so I'll probably stream building them, but repairing the handhelds is pretty simple, really. There's nothing to them, really. Once you've worked on a few, I don't want to disrespect people if they struggle working on the handhelds, but once you've worked on them enough, I kind of know almost all there is to know about what could go wrong with sort of Game Gears and Game Boys. I've done so many of them. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. They're all the same. I think I'm doing all this right. That one's come off over there. Right, I'm just placing all the chips on. These are really hard to see. That's going to be the biggest problem. Can't see which way around these chips are because the markings have pretty much disappeared. Never really give that a thought. Just about see the markings on them. And then we can blast all these on in one go. Alright, he's a bit difficult to see. See if I can see these on the camera. Can't really see more. That one I can see there. These two, though, I can't see markings on them at all. There we go. There's the edge marking. I never really thought about marking the direction on these. They normally have a dimple, so you can't go wrong. Last one. And there's normally a trick. I don't know if anyone knows about it, but you can see that now. There's normally a trick if you get some thermal paste. You can normally get the writing to reappear because it's so fine and it fills the gaps. That's kind of the point of thermal paste. You should be able to see the writing more. So I just get a little bit of thermal paste on my finger. You're meant to be able to just wipe it in and wipe it off. See how it's made all the writing stand out now? This again, probably a bit hard to see on camera, but now by eye, I can see that writing much clearer. Just looks like I'm making a mess on camera, but you can see by eye. It's filled in. For example, there's the line now, super clear. So that's a nice trick to bring back the writing. It's just using thermal paste, and that's just because it fills, like I say, tiny gaps. That's what it does for the heat transfer. So now if you compare that to these that haven't got the thermal paste on, look how easy that one is to see in comparison. Like, just way easier to see all around. So that's the one with thermal paste, and they're the ones without. Yeah, I usually use IPA, but it wasn't working then, so that was a really difficult one to see. So that's, in extreme cases, I tend to try the thermal paste. It's just that you get covered in thermal paste for the next 2 hours. I was so glad we didn't take off that giant FPU there. That was, I really thought was going to be the problem. And then I think if we put these video chips back on, I think we can go for a boot, because I think then with RAM in and video chips in, mind you, I think it's just going to do the same thing. We'll just get a ding-dong, but yeah, that's the point. All you're going to get to is the max sad tone, which we have now, so now we can't really skip it. We're going to have to put everything back on. So now I think these were, yeah, we figured out the problem. Flux, well, let's go back one question. What flux I use is this Styri flux. So there's loads and loads of different versions. I'm just working my way through all of them. I usually use Styri V3 HF, I think it's called. that's ACE, and then I've just gone into this ASM. This one is just as good for reflow, but I think it's very sticky, so stick with the V3. For the issue for this, after removing every single thing on the board, it turns out it's the ROM, the second ROM here, had just died, and this has only just been put in, and it worked, and we booted up probably 4 times, and then it just died. So we've reprogrammed the new one. We kind of get it work. Like, I'm sure it's working. We get the SADMAC tone, but really corrupt and strange and noisy. But this also had a sound issue we never fixed. So I'm hoping, ignoring the sound issue, this is now fully working. But now we've got to put everything back on this board to prove it. And there's that board walk I'm on about again already on this. This remade board definitely likes to bend. Best temp all round is 470 degrees and 80% airspeed. This is running at 490/90, which is just for a little bit quicker work. But if you're confident in it, then you'll still be good at 490. But I'd personally run 470 and 80% airspeed for most jobs. Right, these, if I remember rightly, they say 253 on here. So 253, 2532. So there's 4 of them, and then we labelled these, didn't we, with something, EFG or something like that. So can't see anything again. It'll be engraved, so it'll definitely be on here. Yeah, that's got some kind of writing on. So that, I think that's E. That looks like an E. These are definitely them 4 because they all look the same. So 1, 2, 3, 4. That looks like E. Not sure what that is. That's a G. So that must be an F. Let's see if we can. Oh yeah, whoever's oh yeah, it'd be the customer that's put these tantalums on. I was going to say whoever's put these on, but obviously the customer must have put them on. I personally just use ceramics, so I've just recapped mine. And there's no need for tantalums. You don't need you don't even need electrolytics there, because if you look at the schematic, they're just bulk caps. So I've just literally used SMDs, just the right values and voltages, and this works perfectly fine. GF. Yeah, we could well have other issues, but I'm fairly confident that was just bad luck. Yeah, these are terrible again. Can't see anything. Those are definitely right. That one, let me just look under the scope because I'm sure I saw, and I engraved these as well. It's easy to use. Yeah. This is mad. That's an E. That's an F, yeah. That's a G, so. If we go to, like there, if you tilt it, you can see, so. You can see the G there. Probably should have engraved it a bit deeper, F. And then E, you can just about see. But yeah, under the scope, I've seen them, so we're definitely on the right way for all them. Yeah, also the tantalum caps are not good in terms of how they're mined as well. So not that it's, you know, I'm sure there's plenty of bad things in the world, but I tend to avoid tantalum caps because the way they produce them and the tantalum in them is like, not necessarily like blood diamonds, but it's not a good mining practice in how they source the materials for them. So if you read up on, you know, why tantalum caps are bad, I'm sure that'll pop up. It's basically, you know, people try to, well, I try to avoid them for that reason, try not to use them. That's nice and easy. Yeah, same Retro 6. Just that I do live streaming now as well, so this is just the repairs we get booked in on the website. Just working on a Mac SE30. So all that's soldered good. Just check all the others are soldered on. But they're not that difficult, so I can't see these. I'll have to be pretty sure to soldering for them not to work. Yep, they're all good. Right, we're down to the big chips. So let's just work our way across. Might as well just chuck everything on. Like I say, go for complete full boot at this stage. Considering it was fully working before this happened, it makes sense that nothing else, we shouldn't be that unlucky that other things have failed as well. That would be pretty crazy if it did. Alright, L11. Yep, we're just going to make sure we put these on the right way as well. So let's plonk him on. I'm going to just plonk them all on, and then we can just work our way down. G12. Where's G12? K, U, G12. There we are. That way. Hey, welcome from all the way from Australia. What time is it over there at the minute? I've never been because of it's like 28 hours to come over, but I'd love to go for the barbecues and the weather, but there's no way I'm getting on a plane for that long. Try booting first. It's not going to get far without these chips. I mean, we can do a quick power up if you want, just to see what we're just going to get. SADMAC, I'm reckoning. We should get video because we've got the video chips on. We won't get diagnostics, we won't get SCSI or floppy. VIAs are going to stop it booting, I'm pretty sure. But we can have a quick go and see. Yeah, thanks for joining. And I'm sure you'll see this finished and working on Discord as well. So let's just get the actual SE30 out. And this here. Where's my baby speaker? I can go in. In the middle of the night, like literally 1:40 in the night. Yep, so that's the same issue we get. Which is why I think the audio sound, that sounds like digital corruption. So the fact it's weird like that, I think there's like a bad trace on the audio side. But I think if we might even get further, depending on what the VIAs do. I've lost a RAM chip. I've got got 3. Where's the 4th one gone? There he is. So let's just see. These, I am pretty sure with a known working good RAM chips. I think I binned. Yeah, I did. I tested all the RAM and I binned the non-working ones. So let's just see if it boots without I'm sure it doesn't boot without VIAs though. No, so we need the VIAs. Like if we put the VIAs on, oh shit, probably shouldn't have that floating in the middle of nowhere. Yeah, so I'm sure if we put the VIAs on, ADB and VIAs, we can probably get this thing booting visually. So let's just chuck them on. And then let's see if at least we get something on screen, because this is hopefully just that audio issue now. So we need UK12 and UK11. So K11, K12, and they're both the same chip. That's one. And That's one. These, where I said both of these are labelled K12. I don't know, K12, K11, but with the same chip. He goes on there. He goes on there. So with these three on, hopefully it's gonna boot up somewhere else. I presume to cursor and then hang at cursor is what I'm guessing. Yeah, we've got people from all over today. Welcome from the US. The one thing I wish we had from the US over here is definitely the food choice. So I used to love buffalo wings whenever I'd come over. That'd literally be the first stop from the airport, is straight in to get the hot wings. It's definitely Buffalo Wild Wings. Yeah, the bobbing's no real issue. It's not really bobbing, it's just me knocking it around. And then I'm pushing it down to make sure the pins make contact, because it's a PLCC socket, so they definitely don't want to solder without being pushed down well. So we push down and keep it firm while it sets, and you make sure all the pins are on good. And then one more VIA, and I'm almost 100% sure this should boot then with just these on, because the floppy isn't needed for boot, the SCSI isn't needed to get to the cursor at least, and the diagnostics chip I think we tested that just isn't needed for, well actually all we tested was it wasn't needed for stop the audio, so we might need the diagnostics chip on, but I'm hoping just with this one on we'll be able to see a little early sign that this is going to boot. Yeah, I think I just liked the main buffalo flavour, and they used to have a hot, like literally like a challenge, 5 hot wings I think it was. But I'm crazy for hot food, so I can literally eat pretty much the hottest curries in the UK, and it's no problem. I used to have like Carolina Reaper chocolates for Christmas and things, and crazy on the heat. So now I don't really have any sensation of the spice whatsoever. But you get all the taste. So like if you're eating hot food now, I don't taste the heat, but I taste the flavour. The only thing is then I'll give Rusty some, or the wife some, and have no idea that it's say really hot or barely hot. I'll just give food and people will be like, oh, that's ridiculously hot, and I've literally got no idea. I'm not like doing it on purpose. I couldn't tell you whether it's sort of a masala strength or a vindaloo strength. To me they taste the same now, so whatever I did to my taste buds eating hot stuff, I have no sensation of heat anymore whatsoever, like the actual burning sensation. So now let's just have a quick glance of them. Magnify out. Can we zoom in? Not zoomed in. I think we're zoomed in all the way. Yeah, there we go. Focus out. Yeah, it's like the height of the lens. I can't get much lower. Yeah, they're all good. It's just hard to get these chips at the right angle. Yeah, we're looking solid on them. So let's see if we can boot, I guess. We might as well try it at this stage. Just give it a minute to cool down. I've not seen any delamination on these boards, no. This is a remade circuit board, so this isn't the original, what we're working on here. This is the original, but I've removed every chip off this board about 3 times during working on it, and there's no delamination. The only thing is the traces at joints definitely are fragile, because socketing these, even just with a rubber tip and hot air, so there's absolutely no way of damaging traces with this. You just literally rubber tip and vacuum pump the hole. We still had one trace that broke under here, so that's a sign that these are fragile more for broken traces, probably from like cap rot, because there's a large cap here that leaked everywhere, and that trace is right by the cap. So there's where the trace went, and there's the cap. So that was more than likely just a broken trace already there. But no, these seem fairly decent and absolutely no delamination, even with quite a bit of heat. Josh is in now, so this is whose board this is. You'll be happy to know you've missed the solution. So we've fixed it in a way. This chip, the second ROM chip, had died. So now we get SADMAC, but we get a strange SADMAC, so it's not exactly... It's fixed in a way. But if you remember, we had a sound issue before. Something was getting super, super hot. We now get sound, but like strangely corrupt. So you'll see what I mean now. We might even get boot now, because we've put the VIAs on. So I think... let's give that a second cool. It's still a little bit toasty. I think it boots. It definitely boots without the SCSI. Boots without the swim. Not sure whether these 3 diagnostics chips are needed. So it all depends on if we're going to see a cursor or we'll just get SADMAC. I'm hoping we see a cursor, and then we can move on to chucking the other chips on and then tackling the audio last, basically. So let's see. So we're still getting, here you go, you can hear. I would have thought it booted with the VIAs on. Oh. So it's not got audio now. So you've come too late to hear the SADMAC. He's died again. So let's just check the other speaker. Right, so maybe one of them VIAs is causing an issue now. It's like the most unlucky board. Let me just check this under the scope as well. Just in case any of the solder isn't good. Seems okay there. Okay there, okay there. Solder looks all good. Yeah, there's nothing wrong with any of them. So they're all on solid, so we maybe... I mean, I don't know whether... Let's chuck the diagnostics chips on. Because it might be that with VIAs and no diagnostics you get this kind of hang as well. I'm not sure what happens with having just these chips off in this corner. So let's just put these back on first before we take off the VIAs. Yeah, that's D12. That'll be him. Yeah, I think I need a lab coat. That'll solve all of these issues. Maybe things won't die on me then either. F12. That says G. FD. Why have I got G written on this? It can't be G. Or was that E? Oh, I think it's E and that's covered by a VIA. So yeah, that's those two. And the diag chip is G12. So him. So let's get these on. No, I haven't been going 11 hours. I went out, I ended up doing work and then more work and then cleaning up and then just the day disappeared, so I haven't really done that much work today. I jumped on this at 6-ish in the morning, something like that, till about 8, half 8, and then went out, did all the work, and I've just jumped back on like an hour and 20 minutes ago we started this live. But this is way more than 11 hours though in general. South Will, no Stoke-on-Trent, which is an utter shithole at the minute. It's getting worse. Let's see where we get with that. No, this isn't a recording, this is live. Right, so we had SADMAC until these three went on, the two VIAs and the ADB. I'm just chucking these back on because we might be able to get diagnostics as well if we need to, but it also might put it in a strange boot circle where if the VIAs are on but the diag is not on, maybe it causes issues, we don't know. So I'm tempted to put everything on. Have a quick look at these under the scope, make sure they're good. Yeah. It's just a bit of fluff in between. Yeah, they're all good. Let me just re-inspect these, make sure they're on the right way, all the obvious stuff. K11, K12, yes, they're definitely right. ADB is on. Yep, so there's no issues with what we've got on at the minute in terms of soldering. So let's see if this now works. Let's put this in. Yeah, they're cool enough. Do we get SADMAC again now? No, so we've still got nothing, so maybe one of these VIAs is dead then. So let's just whip them off. This would be really unlucky then, so we've had a ROM chip die, and at the same time we've had a VIA chip die. That seems strange. Or we've got potentially an issue that keeps killing the ROM chips. Can't be bothered to probe it yet. Let's just whip the chip back off and see what happens. We'll take one off at a time as well. Right, so he's off. Give it a second to cool. Just checking nothing happened like the other one as well, that no solder flowed through the untented vias and shorted anything, which it doesn't look like it did. So more than likely it's just a bad chip. Ooh, still hot. CPU's hot. He's the hottest, to be honest. He's taken the brunt of most of the heat. You know what? No, we did have. I was going to say, we had this ramming, didn't we? We did have this ramming when we attempted a boot and heard the SADMAC. And it was only after we put these on that we stopped hearing it. I'm just wondering whether it's the RAM, but I'm pretty sure we did a boot with RAM and without VIAs and we heard the SADMAC, so it wouldn't be that in that case. There you go, Josh. There's your SADMAC. So you got a digital SADMAC. So we've also got a dead VIA, or maybe I just did a shit job of soldering. I'll just put him back on once more because there is a chance the soldering didn't go well, or underneath the chip there was a fault. So let's just put him on once more. The chances of doing it bad twice are much lower. So I wouldn't expect if I chuck it on a second time, I'd do this loads. So I can't imagine it being, you know, bad solder twice in a row. But just to confirm, let's put him on again. Fresh solder, fresh flux. And let's see if it works. It might have just been poor soldering. Go, a bit of a view. And say if you ever want to practice soldering PLCC chips, just buy an SE30 because you're going to be doing a whole lot of chip swapping. That is definitely on good. Yeah, the sound glitchy. To me, that sounds digital. It sounds like it's obviously the thing is as well. The only thing with this system is, if you bear in mind when it first come in, the issue. If I try and hold this down at the same time, the issue was this UE10. This was dead. And this is what controls the digital side of the audio. We replaced that, everything worked, you had it back, it come back in. When it come back in, the amp to the sound chip over, well, a bit further over where I can't get to, was at 120 degrees and died. And now we've got digital sound issues again. I'm wondering whether something on this board, I wonder if this VIA was the original and this was also on its way out then. If the VIA is doing the sound as well. Oh, are you thinking because the VIA helps with the sound and they're not on, that's why you're getting the funky? No, it can't be, because this, but well, I'm not saying it can't do the sound, but this doesn't have the VIAs on, and this has normal SADMAC. But all I'm thinking is, the original fault on this board was the sound chip. We swapped that, it come back with the amp overheating. Oh, there you go. Did we? Oh yeah, we put that back on. I was going to say, did we put that Q2 on? But we did. The second issue was that was getting hot. That's been swapped. But it's just a bit strange how it come in for an issue with UE10, and we're seeing audio issues. Might not be related, and we'll figure that out. But just something to bear in mind. It's actually come in twice, in essence, with a similar issue. So maybe there's something going on this board affecting the sound that isn't the chips, but more than likely it's just something obvious. It probably is just something wrong with the sound, like I'm going to guess a bad trace going on with this system, if so. And VIA back, ooh, no, hot. I was going to say VIA back on and nice and cool, but that's still hot. It's the CPU that ends up consuming all the heat. Literally, the CPU is boiling and the VIA is nice and cool. So they're nice and cool. But this having a ceramic top to dissipate heat more, this takes a little bit longer to cool. So if this doesn't boot, then we're definitely looking at a bad VIA there, and we'll swap that. And I think you said these are off the shelf as well, so it's not the end of the world. We can just buy new VIAs. Yeah, I think they are, I don't know whether they're fragile or bad luck. These are nothing to do with the Mac. These are brought off eBay and just died. That was the original only fault really on this. And most of the other work was just my lack of knowledge at the minute on these. So it's a lot harder until you kind of build up this knowledge base of what should happen and when, and you know, what chips you can remove and still get to certain states. So although saying that, the other one I brought, that's literally just rotted, but again, that was cat damage. So I think all the faults have got kind of known causes. I think the ones I've brought are just cat rot. This one is one bad chip and then what's looking like a bad ROM off eBay so far. It's just really bad luck. It's just taken so much time. Right, we've got speaker in, VIA back on. No, so that's a definite dead VIA. So now we have to rob one from my pile over here. And this is off the other Mac that's fully working. So let's just chuck him on. I don't know whether you want to get some of these VIAs shipped to me, Josh, if you wanted to, because we're going to have to replace one of them anyway, and they're clearly faulty. We just get a couple sent maybe, and I'll just use the one off this Mac for now. You know what I've started doing at Mackey's as well, as just having the original cheeseburger and the original giant chicken nugget, so like the chicken sandwich or whatever the hell you call it. It's like the £1.50 burgers, and they're practically as big as like the £5 burgers, but you're paying like £3 for 2 burgers, so I just get 2 of them instead of one big one. Yeah, we've got the UART, but I don't think it's going to do anything. The VIA is stopping SADMAC, and typically if you don't get SADMAC, you're not going to get UART, because that indicates it's in the debug mode as well. So the chances are with the bad VIA on, it's going to say nothing. Then once we get a good VIA on, like this one, then we should hopefully get past this stage. There's also a chance the other VIA is bad, and when they're both on, it somehow pulls one low. We're not sure, but let's just start with swapping just this one for now. See how easy it is though once you've got a working system and you build up the knowledge and you're a bit more confident. We've chucked everything back on this board, testing in stages, and you can fairly quickly now identify the problems. So future repairs tend to be a lot quicker once you kind of build up a bit of a knowledge base with them. Yeah, I was literally on about that the other day, that Mackey's was, the whole point of Mackey's was meant to be cheap food, and now if you get their specials and fries and a few extras, you can run up a £30–40 bill for 2 people. It's nuts. That's why I started having just the original burgers. They're practically the same size, and like I say, £1.50. So you're back to having, you know, a nice cheap meal, which was the point of it. Where did I put that bad VIA is the question. This dude, let me just put a cross on him before I forget. He is definitely bad. Oh yeah, definitely we ideally want to, well, to be honest, yeah, you could PLCC socket these, couldn't you? But yeah, you want a a full socketed board, definitely. That's something I could do with one of these. I could just buy the sockets that fit. I don't know whether I might have to make a little adapter board if they don't do SMD sockets, because these are through-hole ones. But yeah, would be nice to adapt a board and have all sockets. Then it'd be a nice rapid test. Because again, bear in mind these chips worked as well. So this chip worked because we were booting. This chip works because we've had it fully booting. So these chips that are dead now were working days ago. Like there's no sense to why they've died. They just have. Or we don't know if this VIA is dead yet, if this still doesn't boot. Yeah, so it's not the VIA. Or it's not just the one. So he might not be dead. But with this VIA on, we don't get SADMAC. Let's just take him out. It passes the RAM test and fails elsewhere, but that sound isn't normal. So I think there's still corruption on this. So that VIA is likely good then. So do we just put the other two? I think we just put the SCSI and the Swim back on, and maybe go for diagnostics boot then. Heat killing the chips, honestly, I've never yet done one. I've had boards where I've heated them up tons, swapped the chips dozens of times. They're a lot more resilient than you think they would be. It's not out of the question, it can happen, but I've personally rarely ever seen the heat be the cause of a problem on the boards. So let's chuck SCSI on. We've got a spare K11 now, which I'm pretty sure works. You can go back over there. And this is AL11, is it? J11. Is that, don't really know off the top of your head, Josh, but is this the Swim chip? I think it is. 344SO061. I think I wrote J11. So, and it's the only chip I've got left, but just to be sure I'm not chucking a random chip on here. I think that part number is for it. Yeah, cool. Right, let's get these last two on then, and then we'll either probe or we'll try diagnostics. We'll probably try the diagnostic software to see if it tells me anything. And I suppose the sound is a big hint. The fact the sound's corrupted. I mean, it could be the sound chip. Again, because that's the thing that died originally. We could take the sound chip off, remove the sound chips and see if it boots. Which will, might do, probably will do. Just to see if that's the problem. There we go. Wrong way. Which one? Transistors for heat, yeah, I'm saying that's an exception, like on Atari Lynx. It's mainly old JFETs and bipolar FETs. MOSFETs I'll never kill with heat, but yeah, the other ones you can defo kill. Just compare with this one. Yep, we've put him on sideways. Good catch. Get him off while he's still hot. Too busy focusing on if it was the right chip as to whether it was on the right way. Soldier 9 station is just a quick 861 DW, about 100 and something pounds. And then the iron is a clone of a JBC, so it's called an I2C. Flip them around, and you can get them both off AliExpress. There we go, he's on the right way. Just testing if you're watching, that was. Good way to get extra comments. Oh, I know the best way of almost killing it as well. I plugged, on my one, I plugged the SCSI in backwards when I was off camera. I was just testing something, that new SCSI drive I showed you, Josh, the green board. Plugged the ID backwards, the whole thing smoked. I was like, oh shit. Left it off a while, it wouldn't boot. Just started booting again. I'm like, thankful. Usually when stuff smokes, it's okay. It's when it doesn't smoke, it's dead. So if you put the SCSI in backwards, you'll get smoke, but you don't kill anything. And of course, just like Apple fashion, the fuse didn't blow. So the whole point of F3 is to protect the SCSI, I believe. No, it let the thing nearly set on fire and the fuse was totally fine. Just like modern iPhones. And then we have all the chips on, they're all the right way. And where were we up to with this? This just didn't boot once these were on, wasn't it? So now everything's on. I can't see that changing much. But we'll give it a minute cool, and then I guess if this still doesn't work, we'll probably take the RAM out, get it boot into diagnostics, which unfortunately this didn't do either. So let's hope that works. And then if we get into diagnostics, we might be able to then test the VIAs and stuff, but likelihood is we're going to have to scope this again, I'm guessing, to figure out where the corruption is, because the audio is a real key sign something's not right with the data or the address. Or we could just have as well corrupt BIOS. Bear in mind, one chip's dead, the others could still be faulty. I don't now trust these. It might be that it works enough to get to part of the RAM test, but the rest of the chips are corrupt higher up. So these might be suspect again. And unfortunately, like I say, the ROM socket doesn't fit down here. So this ROM socket down here, you can't fit at the same time. Doesn't quite fit, so we'd have to remove all this, which is even worse. So we're kind of stuck with these chips for now, but it might be worth getting some more of these. Yeah, that's all close enough. That on, and I presume we get nothing. Okay. What? We're booting. Why are we booting? I mean, the sound's still screwed, but why is it now booting with everything? And we're back to... Oh yeah, the sound's screwed, I know that, but that's amazing. I'm just wondering why it's even got this far, because it's going to boot, isn't it? Let me get where's that blue SCSI thing? floating. Oh, I think it's in the back of this. It's already here somewhere. There he is. Let's plug this in the right way. So let's not plug him in backwards and do the smoky thing I told you I did by mistake. Plug him in and reset. And then you watch this boot. It's booting. So, yeah, I don't care that it's working. I'm more concerned about why didn't it work when we had the VIAs on and not the swim or SCSI. That's not happened on the working one. So maybe these ROM chips, this custom ROM we've done, Josh, is something different than the stock ROM, because this is not what happens on stock ROM. We've proved it. We've got well, this board, as I was taking chips off, we've had it booting without, I know for a fact we've had it booting without the SCSI and without the swim. But if you remove these two, this thing doesn't boot at all. So that's got to be something with this custom ROM, I think. I think that's where maybe that extra RAM check does something. God knows. So that's something else to bear in mind, that's kind of a problem with these ROM chips for diagnostics, because it makes it a lot harder. You need to have a working SCSI, a working swim, 2 working VIAs and an ADB. So that's working. Shall we try the keyboard and mouse? And then what you've got now is a limited edition Mac SE31 sound system. So I won't charge you any extra for that. And then I'll get this back to you tomorrow. Job's a good one. I'll go have some pizza. Yeah, mouse works. Any tests you want me to do on this? 4 meg of RAM, so that's working. Should we just zoom in on this? There we go. So you want me to do anything on this specific, Josh, to test it while it's running, just let me know. 4 meg, it's got the RAM there, and there's 4 meg installed, so that's right, there's just 4 chips in. I could always put more in, but we'll do that after. And then I don't know what's on this or what we do. Downloads, nothing. Where do we play sound? We got any way of playing sound? In settings. Where's settings? I told you I know nothing about these Macs yet. Don't presume I know where settings is. Control panel, maybe? There we go, sound. That sounds normal. I wonder if that sound is corrupt ROM. That would make sense. If the BIOS is corrupt, it's making a corrupt sound. That to me sounds fine. Any other sounds? Sound in. Ooh. Where's the sound in? Can we pipe sound in and play? Yeah, God knows. Yeah, so it looks like this is working then, doesn't it? Basically just, that's definitely right. That's, so it's just bad ROM. So, I mean, that's easy enough if, I can program the others again, or if you want a different ROM programming, just let me know. But the boot up sound is obviously just in those ROM chips, and one was bad. So the likelihood is those chips are bad. I don't know whether we just source some. Don't know whether they're on DigiKey. Get some, more recommended ones, but that seems to be working. Yeah, the bot's kicked in and told us to feed Rusty. That's wicked. It's in the ticket. I can flash the ROMs, yeah? I think they're rewritable. So we can... I've already flashed that ROM that we mentioned. Did you send me another one? But the one you mentioned that was split originally, I've already done. But I guess I could do another one. And we could also let's put more RAM in as well, just to be sure. So let's put these other 4 in. And check all 4 sockets. But we did this right before everything died on us, so I'm sure these RAM chips will still work as well. It's not in right. Right, so that's all 4 of them in. Let's just boot that back up as is then. Let's see if we get the extra memory now. And then we know the system's basically good, and we can easily play with the ROMs. There's that awesome sound. Bing. Yep, and there's 5 meg. So this is fully working then, isn't it, basically? Internal sound work from the pins. Let me try that. Yeah, because that's the thing that we had the issues with before. Let me just open up control panel. I have swapped that amp, so the likelihood is it will work. What got me into it was meant to be a hobby. So I'd sold up shares in a software company that I owned that was just growing too big and too much politics, so got out of that business. And this was meant to be a fun hobby, and like most things I do, it turned into yet another business. So it's something I only do though because I enjoy it. So I wouldn't want to do this if I didn't enjoy it, because it's not exactly, you're not going to make yourself rich doing this. You've got to really enjoy what you're doing. Try not to kill yourself on a CRT while you're holding it up in midair with one hand and plugging sound in with another. And if this doesn't work, it's going to get to 100 degrees really fast. This is probably should. Maybe I should just use another speaker. Come on. Closer. Now the ID's in the way. Yeah, this is going to end in disaster. Let me just let me turn this off before we kill everything we've worked hard to get working. And where's the speaker? Wedged in the front. I'm going to guess it's just an 8-ohm speaker. Let me just measure what the speaker is. And we'll just fit another speaker. It's easier than doing this. Jeez. Right. Yeah, I've already unplugged that speaker, so we should be good on that front. Let's probe this speaker. So the front speaker is 70-ohm speaker. Damn it! So I'm gonna have to plug that in. That's a high ohm speaker. I'm just gonna have to try and get this plugged in somehow. Then I guess I can install it properly. I think we're going to have to be honest. Unplug power, turn on. That goes through there, maybe. Nope, that's not even the one we're using. This, so confusing. Get through. You can go there. You can go in there. You can fit in there. Right, we're plugged in. Yeah, I guess. We don't need to see the screen for now. I guess if we hear the ding-dong, then we know it's working. So let's just make sure this board isn't shorting out, because it nearly is. It's passing through there. Right, so he's not going to short out now. He's not going to short. Let's just see if we hear the ding. Yay! Working. So you want to hear that again? Or not? That worked for one ding. Oh, it's fell out. Why no ding? You dinged once. No more ding. You heard that? I wonder if I've pulled the speaker off. Let's check what's going on the front. This is ridiculously awkward. There we go. Definitely haven't killed it. No boot. It's dead again. Let's just leave the power off a minute. Probably just because we've power cycled it too fast a few times. You can do that sometimes. Nothing's hot. Or it could just be like the RAM as well, moving the RAM about. I think it'll be something simple. Unplug speaker. You know what? I wonder if the ROMs are bad, like you say. Oh, hang on. The scuzzy wires hanging out. Nope, not that either. So let's unplug him. Hopefully it's just something simple there with all this dangling wires we're probably just talking about. One of the ROMs or the wires or something loose. Feed them back through. Let's see if, well, first thing, let's see if we can get any sound out. Yeah, I'd say that's going to be, I reckon these ROMs are dying. I think that's the problem. Yeah, these ROMs are definitely dodgy. So all I've done there is pushed on these ROMs and it started booting again. So obviously I've got this unplugged. So it's definitely, these ROM chips are not to be trusted. So at least it's a simple thing. Let's just get booting again. We heard the speaker, so we know the internal speaker's working. If I could strip it from the board, that's probably easier. If I can actually get it out of the monitor, but I don't know how easy that is. Because then we can just plug it in and just do another quick check while it's working. So all that's on. That goes in. Let's see, and then failed. I'm guessing that's failed boot again. So let's push them. Yeah, it's these ROMs. They're definitely no good. But that's going to boot. So there's no point in reprogramming these ROMs. They're obviously shit. So we'll get some new ones. One last thing then. Is there an easy way to take the speaker out of the case? Because if so, I know it's the ROM because the ROM died. So I doubt it's the socket. The fact that the ROM died, pushing it's probably just helping it. If that voltage level started about 7 conversations there. If you didn't really see what happened originally, basically the voltage should be 4 volts and the dead ROM chip, it was like 3.3. So it was under voltage. So the chances are the other ROM chips are bad. And then, because they're bad, pushing on them will make a little bit better contact and raise the voltage. So I doubt it's the sockets. The sockets are pretty solid. Shall we use the second Mac for the speaker? I don't think this is any easier than the other way around, but at least we can say we've fixed this using a Mac, non-Mac SE. There we go. Oh, and I've put the keyboard down. I can't move. So now what am I going to do? Speakers in. I've got another Mac on the table. This is definitely not the way you do things. Well, let's rest everything carefully. Nothing's exploded yet. Get the keyboard and mouse. This is the most controverted way to test if sound works. Right then, that in there. We have a mouse. There we go. Control panel. So now this is the internal speaker of this monitor. Maybe this speaker's bad. So I'm going to have to plug the other one in. But we heard it boot once. Let me try and power cycle. No, so that speaker could be bad. In fact, I'll know that if I measure the ohms. Where's my speaker gone? There. Let me just measure the ohms of this one. And then if this is bad, we know it's bad. I could probably just plug it all back in the way I had it, so we can hear the sound. Speakers shouldn't be polarized. Yeah, this is a 200 or 1.2 million ohm speaker. You can see I'm probing the speaker here. So this speaker's just dead, so that's why. It's basically an open circuit. So the speaker in that one is bad. So let's just do it once more. Let's just power it down, plug it in properly, see it booting, and then we know it's just bad ROMs. And then I can either wait for you to send me ROMs, or I can buy some ROMs, or I can just ship it to you and you can just extract them and, you know, plug them in, but you might not have the programmer, so you're probably best just waiting for me to get the ROMs, I'm guessing. Or like I say, you get them ordered and send them in, whichever works. But that's obviously the only issue left by the looks of it. Let's just go for one more. I want to see this working fully with sound internally. And then at least we're comfortable, everything's working good. Where's the SCSI gone? In my hand. What am I trying to do? Pass this through. So this comes through here. Get that onto there. This goes on the board. This. How does it come out? Don't remember unplugging him. That goes up there. Now we've got to. Oh, that speaker's come out again. This is so. Oh, I'm gonna have to just do it properly, aren't I? There's no shortcut to this. Yeah, it could be. See, the thing with the chips is you can, unless it shorts to ground or 5 volts, you're not really going to kill them chips shorting pins together. They're quite resilient as well. But it's possible, but the sockets, I know I whinge about them, but they do seem solid and good. I don't think it's a socket issue. They're soldered in well. The new sockets, they don't seem like the problem to me. And we'll know that when we get new chips. Right, can this goes in here, doesn't it? And then it's going through the wrong hole. literally never built one of these yet. I've taken them, 3 of them apart. I've never built one up. Yay, there we go. He's floating, he's there. Oh, whack myself in the face. I think that speaker's on. Now it's in. Old hard drive, might as well take him out, he's dead. That old hard drive died on us as well, for no reason. Where's this plug-in? There. To be honest, Macs are fragile. I just realised. We have this hard drive died on us. The speaker's dead on the one I brought. Mine had broken traces just sneezing at it. We've had a sound chip die. So yeah, I take it back. I think Macs are quite fragile. I suppose for their age though, they're pretty good. Right, we're in properly, the way it should be. That goes there. Right. Nothing's shorting. Nothing's going to blow up. Well, it might do, but everything seems in. Nothing's touching. I'm going to hold this in the air because I don't trust it. Yay! Sound. There we go. Actually fully working. So other than obviously the ROMs that we know are dodgy. Internal speaker. Where's my mouse? I'm looking at the stream for the mouse on the Mac. That's a bit crazy. Right. Control panel. Sound. Yay, there we go. Done, happy, goodbye. Time for pizza. Okay, I pressed that a few many times. There we go, all good. Yeah, for the ROMs, you can either buy them for me and get them shipped, or I can find them on DigiKey or somewhere, send me the ROM files you want me to flash, and then I can just leave this exactly where it is and just program them on, test it works, and we should be good to go. Finally. So that was, I think that's officially been the longest of any repair I've ever done, by the way, as well. This takes the crown for the, I think it was the Sega Megatech. Took me, well, that took me months, but this has probably had more actual time on. I spent months on the Megatech reverse engineering stuff. This has just taken tons of actual labour time to figure out. But now I think we've got a decent grasp of how it all works. So I think the next one's definitely going to be easier than this. Plus I got £10 donation. Whee! Set a new goal now. So thanks for everybody joining in. Hope you have a good day, and I'll probably be back on tomorrow now with some easy stuff. Probably do, I don't know whether you want to see a Jaguar Atari Jag next or a Neo Geo AES. If you have a preference, just let me know. Otherwise, I'll probably just start working through the backlog. I've got an Amiga as well, actually, an Amiga 1200 I've got to build up. That's massively out the way. And we also have Prestiges, but I'll leave them up to Zach. So it's really either an Amiga 1200, an Atari Jag, or a Neo Geo AES I can work on next. And I can finally put this one to rest. Oh, and I also have 2 other working Macs now as well, because we fixed the other 2. So thanks for joining in, guys. And oh yeah, you've come too late. You've missed a good one. You can watch it back on replay though. Definitely worth a watch. And there's definitely been more than one problem, I can tell you that. So I'll catch everybody in the next one.